When was the last time that you saw your teen smile? And by smile, I mean really smile. Uh, there's no question that teenage years are tough on both sides of that equation, right? All those emotions that are flying around. But today on the show, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into some of those challenges, and then we're quickly going to surface to the solutions and some authentic conversations that you can have with your teen that I want to say like taps into their inner motivation and reminds them of what it felt like to have that joy in their life. So we're going to be diving into that, and you're going to love today's guest and how she covers some of that topic. So my name is Cheryl Bassett, and I am the founder of Unstoppable Connections. I'm an international bestseller and creator of the award-winning Unstoppable Family E-Kit. I am also your host for today and part of the Edge Network. Families do tap into something I've created called the 4 gifts. Those gifts create this unshakable, unbreakable connection for families in terms of how we build a foundation of trust. You can discover more about that if you want to learn more about the 4 gifts by just going to unstoppableconnections.com, and you can right from the front page download the free ebook about the 4 gifts. Also, because of the show, we kitchen table conversations. We're always looking for those unique topics and ideas. Or if you want to be a guest on the show, you can go to kitchentableconversations.com, and we can look at what you want to bring to the table or what you'd like to see on the show. And you can go right there and download an idea. So I want to set the intention for this show, and I want to do this for every show, right? This is so important. This show is going to feature the fun stuff to the tough stuff and everything in between. Today, with Michelle, who I'm going to introduce you to here in a moment, we're going to be talking about some of the tough stuff, right? It's just part of it. But it's all designed to ignite a conversation, to strengthen your family, and to create a positive ripple out in the world. The show also is going to harness one of my gifts, which is the 4th gift, which is the gift of love. And we're going to unwrap that on every show by choosing to celebrate ourselves and others. And it is with that intent that we come to every show with an open heart, an open mind, and a true celebration of the person who came here today to share their amazing expertise and passion and gifts with us. So with that, I want to read just a little bit of Michelle Mehta, her bio, to you because I want to get it right. And then we're going to bring her on, and you're going to love what she has to share. Michelle Mehta is a certified professional coactive coach, associated certified coach, and a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. She helps her clients find their truest version of themselves by feeling empowered and letting go of their limiting beliefs around love, worthiness, and belonging. How important is that, right? We've set up our own limitations, and we're going to talk about how we get into the heartbeat of those and get rid of those limiting beliefs. She is an international teen confidence coach, mentor, and speaker working with parents and their teenagers all over the world, including right here where I am, and she is too in the US, but she also has been in Canada, Nigeria, and India. So with that, let me bring on Michelle. Yay, there she is.
Hi.
Hi,
Carol. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, I was excited. And, it just, we're going to end up with these, like I said, fun topics and tough topics. And what's great about today, I have 4 shows and 2 of them are fun, I'd say. And not that we're not going to have fun, because we are, but the more fun topics, right? And then we have topics that are a little bit tougher, which that's okay, because we move into the energy of that solution. But we have to start where we start, which is, kind of talking about the awareness around it, because awareness is so, and I think, I just had a guest on, Michelle, I think you're going to appreciate this, but she was talking about how, it's not about fear, right? We don't have fear around these things. We just want to have an awareness around them, and then quickly figure out how it is we can move into the energy of the solution around them. And that's what, that's what we're going to do today as well. Your topic. So with that, we all have our passions. Yes. I have a passion for why I'm here doing what I do. And you have a passion for why you do what you do. So why don't you kind of start off by telling us how it is you got excited about what it is that you're doing?
Yeah. So when I started my coaching career, I was coaching women between the ages of 30 to 50. And then there was this time period in my life where I had 4 different women in that age group ask me, do you coach teenagers? Because I'm really, I'm a mom of teenagers. I work with teenagers and as a teacher, and I'm struggling. Do you coach them? And at that moment, I said, I don't at that moment, but I totally can. And when I went to my middle school and did a career day presentation as like an alumni, and I came back and I asked these kids a question, part of my presentation: how many of you guys have evil voices inside of your head? And I was in front of 100 kids that day, and every single kid raised their hand.
That they're struggling with this like negative messaging that they're sending to themselves. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And the evil voices that they were telling themselves were, I'm an idiot, I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, no, I'm stupid. And I just looked at them, and the teachers were there, and it was just so, in that moment, I just took a deep breath and I said, okay, this is my calling. Because if we don't attack this problem in middle school, this is basically their foundation for adult life. And if they're going on with these mindset of, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, no one loves me, I'm not smart enough, that's going to carry on. Every single decision that they're going to make is going to carry on based on that thought. And so that's when I decided I have to do something. And I wanted to be the change in the world that I see, and I wanted to start with me. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to create a program. I'm going to create awareness. And that's how I started. And so I am coaching teenagers right now, middle school and high school kids, to really figure out, where did that thought come from? And also to know that it is just a mind thought. Your heart doesn't think that way.
Right. Well, I am getting some feedback. Is your speaker, is there a way for you to adjust it down just a little bit so I don't maybe hear myself twice?
Is that better?
Let me see. Yeah, I think, that sounds better. I don't want to echo back to our guests here. So, but yeah, I think, so there's these things that we start to believe about ourselves, which, often are not true. And a lot of that comes from our surroundings and our environment. And this is where obviously I get passionate, because I feel like a lot of this starts at the kitchen table. There's a beautiful little video, and I bet you saw it, but there was a little boy who his mom would send him off to school, and she would have him walk to school. Now he was young. He's probably, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years old, but his little mantra was, I am smart, I am blessed, I can do anything. And he would walk the whole way to school. And it's so adorable, because he'd go, I am smart, I am blessed, I can do anything. And I think that like some of that comes, obviously in terms of how as parents we are choosing to, show up for our kids and let them believe in themselves and not take that away, because they start out believing, right? Life happens, right? And I'm not saying it's all the parents, but life happens. And so those are conversations that I believe are so important out of the gate. But in middle school, my God, like it's so tough in middle school, right?
Oh yeah.
You worry so much about what everybody thinks about what you're wearing, or, like stuff that doesn't, as we know, ultimately doesn't really matter. But in that moment, it's so important.
Yeah. And, what happens in middle school is that we as adults forget, but that's when puberty happens. That's when your bodies are changing. That's when, whether you're a boy or a girl, your internal, reproductive system is building. And so a lot of insecurities are developed in that time frame. And if we don't handle the insecurities as like, hey, just because somebody is growing in one way doesn't mean you're not growing in that same way, because your time is different. Right. A lot of people start their menstrual cycle in elementary school. Some started after middle school. Some started during middle school. And you have 2 to 3 years of middle school, whether, it be 6, 7, and 8, or 7th or 8th grade. So everybody is different. And if we appreciate that uniqueness of every single child, that insecurity would not be an insecurity.
Right. So you heard me introduce the show that we celebrate ourselves and others. And that's a conversation that, again, as young as you can start that and get them to appreciate the beauty in the world, right? We all are unique and different and beautiful in our own way and talented. And when we can appreciate that about ourselves, then we can certainly appreciate it about others. But if we don't, then we find out that we're judging and we're judging ourselves sometimes in the most harsh way. So yeah, absolutely. And middle school, I do remember like it's all about the clicks, especially with girls. I had boys. Oh my God. Like what a blessing it was. The boys don't get into that nearly as much as the girls do, but the clicks and wanting to feel, a part of something. And we all have that need, but man, if we can really believe, cherish who we are first and foremost. Yeah. So I'm sure that's what part of your program is about, right? Getting them to look in the mirror and say, I like me.
No, and that's what we start off with. It's like, what are your goals and why are they your goals? We figure out the purpose behind it. And then we build it into, like, now that we figured out what your goals are, let's attach values to it. And then let's create boundaries, because now you're stepping into your authentic self. What does that actually look like, so that you can go achieve those goals? So it starts off with self-discovery first, because if you don't know who you are, none of this stuff is going to matter.
Yes.
So it starts off with that. And right now, a lot of the middle school kids are on Instagram, and they don't get enough likes. They feel like they're not part of something. And so that's also another issue that we're facing as kids that we didn't face as an adult. Oh, so there's that whole thing of feeling that belonging of on and off social media. So
yeah, no, you're so right. And man, I was just actually talking about this with the last guy on the show, because I didn't, when my kids were growing up, I didn't have that. I didn't have to worry about it. Now I have grandkids coming. Guess what I get to worry about? But, and I won't choose to worry, but I think it is so, like, there's a really wonderful commercial, and I know it's actually, I don't think it's on TV, it's on the internet, but it says we count likes, we count friends, we count steps, we count calories, we count all this stuff that doesn't really matter, because really what matters at the end of the day, what we should be counting are the interactions that we have in a really authentic way, and the memories that we're creating. But it's actually for VRBO, which is vacation rental by owner. but it's a beautiful thought. And I think kids are caught up in, and sometimes the adults are caught up in, like, not that many people liked my post today.
Yeah. Well, you're right. This whole, people throughout their whole life, and they're like, vulnerable post alert, and then it's crickets. It's like no one responds to them. It's like, sometimes the algorithm, sometimes you think everybody's watching your content, but then no one's watching your content because you haven't posted enough, or you only post once a year. And so it just kind of goes that way. And so there's so much pressure that we as individuals, as human beings, put on ourselves. And a lot of these things that are called worries come from a place of fear, rather than a place of love. If you love yourself enough, the fear has no room to grow.
Right.
And so that's something that I talk about as well in the program.
So do you feel like your first step with anyone that you're working with is really looking in the mirror, liking themselves, discovering who they are, and then stepping into some of that awareness?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's like the foundation.
That's the foundation. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then tell me, where does it go from, like, what's the next step after that? After they say, I look in the mirror and I go, okay, like, my nose is not exactly, but I can still appreciate it. Like, I used to go, oh my God, my lips are so thin. Now everybody's gonna be looking at my lips since I said this. But someone said to me, oh my God, just own it. Just own it. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Just own it. And I stopped. Of course I'm bringing it up. So yeah. But I just, like, I let it go, because in the end of the day, it's not that big a deal. So I think, but because I love who I am, right? And that's
And it's appreciating your inner and outer beauty, right? There's the outer beauty of what we actually look like, and there's the inner beauty of actually what we feel like.
Yeah.
Right? I feel tired. I feel happy. I feel excited. I feel lonely. Those are the things that we work with more, because the outer body you can't really change unless you eat that's all you eat is ice cream all day long. Then maybe your body might change. But other than that, if you might gain weight or you might lose weight. But other than that, like, it all depends upon your inner. Like, what thoughts are you feeding yourself?
Yeah.
And if you stand in the mirror and you do the Wonder Woman pose, which I love, then you automatically feel powerful, because you're like, I feel strong, I feel confident. But if you're like slouching over, like you're showing that you don't have confidence, that's going to show through, and people are going to pick up on that energetically. Yeah. So it's the inner beauty that I work with more than the outer beauty.
Good. Perfect. So it's really getting past that.
Yeah, it's getting past that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, because let's say, like, I had insecurity about my arms. I would always wear a sweatshirt, and because first all, it was always cold. Second, I just felt my arms were so skinny. And so that was part of the thing I was going through the middle school, was like, I couldn't show off my arms because I just felt they looked weird. They were perfectly normal arms, but I had this insecurity of like, oh my God, it looks so weird. So I'd always cover it up just to, do that. And so I go back to the school 20 years later, and the staff was like, you still have a jacket on even till this day. See, we find you in your photos. There you are, and you still have a jacket on today. I was like, well, okay, today I'm professional.
Yeah.
We have those thoughts, and if we keep feeding it, those thoughts only get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So they can get bigger negatively, they can get bigger positively. It's what thoughts are you feeding, and at what point in your life are you feeding them?
Right. Very good. So, okay. So you kind of get them through the first step of looking in the mirror. You like themselves. I just like to make sure our guests kind of like flow with us here.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have them step into awareness, and then we really get past the outer beauty, because really at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do, and you should just appreciate what God gave us. Right. So then we get into the inner beauty, and so once you're working with them, once you've got them to kind of create that space for themselves, to realize that how they feel really matters. Then what's the next? Is there a next step that you're taking them into?
Yeah. So once they figure out who they are, and that's where the boundaries kick in, right? Because now they're walking into this world of like, hey, I'm the new and transformed. I'm just going to say my name. I'm the new and transformed Michelle. And now I'm walking into the world feeling all confident. And my friends who are not in personal development are like, what's wrong with you? Like, what happened to you? What'd you get into? And it's like, that's where the boundaries kick in, where you're saying yes to things and no to things, because that's where you're owning yourself now. Because there's a lot of pressure, especially middle school and high school, to get the grades, to get into the sports, to get into those things that are important. And also there's the bad stuff too, like, hooking up or relationships or vaping or all that other stuff that we go into. And so it's like, that's when you get to choose the crowd that you want to hang out with. Mm-hmm. And as I grew up in the coaching world, I realized that every time I got out of a class or I got out of a program, I was like high on life. Mm-hmm. And it was just this high on life, not because of drugs, but just because of personal development, of releasing the negativity. And so that's where the boundaries and saying yes to things that matter to you and saying no to things that don't matter to you. Right. And owning it. And that's where you start owning your voice, because now that you've figured out who you are internally, how do you express it? And a lot of kids forget to use their voice because they feel like they're always going to get shut down, because people are telling them, oh, you're not supposed to be this way. You're not supposed to act this way. You're only supposed to act this way or that way. And so I allow them to go into self-expression, and I allow them to really feel into who they are at the core, right? And letting go of the things that they've been told in the past.
Right. There's so many things that we've been programmed with, right, that we think are true about ourselves that aren't. And I think sometimes one of the things we have to do is learn to let go of some of those core beliefs that don't serve us, right? Some of them serve us really well, and those are the ones we want to put in and cherish and value and create new ones around, right? So and sometimes it's really the opposite, right? Like, so if you have a core belief that you're not worthy, then the core belief needs to be that you have self-worth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So so getting to that point, and the boundaries thing, oh my gosh, like, you're so right. Like, and nothing is harder than those boundaries, I think, when you are in that middle school age group, right, where it kind of all starts. And you're right, picking your friends, right? Because are you trying to pick friends that, are just going to make you I don't like lift you up, but you're not, what I'm saying? Like, hang around people that really are where you are.
Yes.
Right? And so forth. So because, so the boundaries thing is huge, I think, at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's when they're figuring out what boundaries are in that moment, right? Like, no one really teaches us about boundaries until way into adult life. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's when we're getting called up in like relationships. So that's when we start figuring out what boundaries are. But why not teach boundaries at a younger age where it actually matters? Because that's the foundation of adulthood. It's middle school and high school years. So
it's funny because, and it's not like I had it all figured out, but my son, Brian, one time was so excited to go over and visit with one of his friends, Johnny. And he was, I don't know if he was quite in middle school. He might've been more in elementary school, but he was so excited actually just makes this story more perfect. But he was in, he was in elementary school, and he went over to see Johnny. We talked about it for 2 weeks I'm going to Johnny's house. It was like such a big thing, right? So he gets over there, and a half hour later, he comes back home after this big, like, we're talking about it for 2 weeks. He comes home and he says, I'm like, why? Why are you home? Like, what happened? And he goes, I just realized that Johnny actually like tries to make me feel bad about myself. And he goes, why would I want to be around that?
Oh, that's so powerful.
And I went, oh my gosh, it took me 35 years to figure that out. How did you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, it took me forever to get that lesson under there. Like, like, how do you really just step in? And so Brian had, like, out of the gate, like, these amazing boundaries. And I learned from him, sometimes. So, but yeah, and that's where that self-esteem comes in.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important. And, like, you always talk about love as one of your fourth principle. And so that's what we need to do is, what does love mean to us first? We can't go on and love the world unless we don't love ourselves.
Right.
So what does love mean to us individually? And the younger we start that, the better off we are in our adult life.
Yeah. It is learning to celebrate ourselves and others. That's how we unwrap the gift of love. And there, obviously there's many pieces of that. And, like walking on a path of love versus fear. But that's also, I think you and I talked the other day that I had put out a post about when we constantly criticize our children, they don't stop loving us, they stop loving themselves. And I think as parents, that's where it sort of starts, right? So we want to always, if you have a child who's unique or different and they're all special and they're all beautiful. And if we can learn to allow them to just unfold in the most beautiful way possible, they'll have that self-esteem and they'll accept who they are too. So I do think that the parents play a huge piece in how this comes out of the gate for a child.
Yeah, absolutely. What I've noticed also is that whenever there's a newborn baby, right, a fresh out of the gate baby, we, as the woman, as the mom and the dad, we provide it with unconditional love. Whether it sleeps at night, doesn't sleep at night, it poops all day long, we don't get mad at it. We're like, okay, it's just in the training phase. The moment they start talking, that unconditional love turns into conditional because you start putting expectations. I expect you to get good grades. I expect you to be on the sports team. I expect you. And so all of a sudden, now you're distancing that unconditional with conditional. And then you put all these expectations. And so now these kids are carrying this burden of expectations. And then if they don't meet those expectations, they go into this, well, I'm not good enough.
Right.
Oh, I'm never going to be good enough because my parents told me to clean my room in half an hour and it took me 45 minutes to an hour. Or I never cleaned up my room like I was supposed to. And so now they don't love me enough. And so if as we're becoming parents and we're growing into that, start treating them with unconditional love. Treat them as if they were a little kid because they don't know what we know. Right? We've got years of experience over them.
Right. And frankly, most of us have had to undo and relearn, right?
Exactly.
Ourselves, which is why, I know sometimes that, we get to take our journeys and learn because that's how we do get to help, right? And that's why we get to come on and share this kind of information on a show like this.
Yes.
Because all of us have done something that, we learned the hard way. And of course, we would love for our kids to just learn it the easy way. But the truth is that a lot of it just has to do with how we respect them out of the gate, that unconditional love that you're talking about. So,
absolutely. I mean, I would just appreciate yourself and appreciate your kids because you are their role models.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And create a safe environment at home. Allow them to express themselves. And if they're saying something like, oh, I had a bad day at work or I had a bad day at school or talk about it. Express them and don't judge them for what they're saying. See if you can support them in what they're saying because that's how you can reduce the suicide rates that are happening.
Right. It's conversation, right?
Conversation.
My husband used to have something up on his board at work that said almost everything in life can be solved with three things: diet, and he's a chiropractor, so it's health based, but it can be solved with diet, exercise, and communication.
Yes.
And and really when you think about it, there's a lot of truth in that. And that communication is so important, and feeling safe. Kids need to feel safe that if they do need to share something, that they're not going to feel judged. One of our favorite quotes as a family that we used to talk about, and we still do talk about this quote, but when you judge someone, you're not defining them. You're defining yourself as someone who's judgmental. So how do we, so when we're not out, but we first need to not judge ourselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So harshly. And then we can let go of not trying to judge everything, because really we're all beautiful. We all are perfect in where we are. We're all perfect in our journey. And, and giving that feeling to kids, that they get to own that too, because, the more I live in my joy, the more my children lived in theirs.
Oh, absolutely. And so I always tell myself, what is that one thing I'm celebrating today? Name one thing. That one thing's going to propel you to make more decisions to celebrate more. Mm-hmm. So if you and I used to be really hard on myself, especially as an entrepreneur, things aren't working and all this stuff. And I just carry on this negative energy until I took a step back and I said, no, I'm going to celebrate one little thing I did. If I messaged one new person, I'm celebrating that. If I did this, I'm celebrating. And I got into this moment of gratitude and celebratory, and I've gotten to see monetary returns as a result of it, just because I was operating at a higher level of joy and happiness. Mm-hmm. And so the universe is going to deliver even more. Surprises are even going to happen even more. So,
well, that word you hit on about being grateful, right?
Yeah.
Standing in gratitude. That is the best place to be, right? When we can stand in gratitude and, in that gratefulness of appreciating who we are and that energy that we get to be in as a result of that. And then obviously what we end up attracting in is as a result of that as well. And that confidence that we need to have. So
exactly.
It's great. So I think the work you're doing is just so amazing and so important. We are going to talk, I want, the last few minutes we have here, I want to talk about how someone would get in touch with you if they're interested, obviously, and connecting with you and what you do. And then a parting thought, and then we're going to each give a dot, which is a drop of thought, our final word of wisdom for the show. Yeah. How would someone, what would that look like if they connected with you, and where would they go?
Yeah. So basically we would do a free consult first, just to see if we're a match. The parents, I'd love to connect with the parents first to see what the issues are that they're seeing with their kids. And then once I get the green light, have a free consult with the child to make sure that we're in a relationship together, that we understand each other, and that there's respect for each other. And then just take it on from there. Okay. So I'm offering a free consult.
And where would they? Where did they go to do that? We didn't create this ahead of time, so I'm going to try to do it here in the moment. But where would they go to connect with you?
Yeah, they can just email me, Michelle@michellemehta.com.
Okay, so we're going to do Michelle. Oh, maybe we're not. Let's see. Enter a banner. Oh, I'm hitting the space bar. Oh my God. Okay, Michelle at
michellemehta.com.
Michelle. At Michelle, say it slowly.
Mehta, MEHTA.com.
Oh, your last name.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Michelle at my first and last name.com. So you guys can just email me directly.
I would have gotten it better. Anyway, okay. We're going to add that banner here. Make sure I got it spelled right.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, go ahead and just email me, because I would love to see what your thoughts are about this. And then really just let me know what challenges you're facing, because teenagers are an issue in today's, and they're our future. And so I want to support as many people as I can.
Yeah, good. And I'm going to repeat Michelle's email here, because for those of us that might not be seeing this, but just listening to this, it is Michelle. It's MICHELLE. So there's two L's. At Michelle, spelled the same way again, Mehta, MEHTA.com. So it is Michelle at MichelleMehta.com. So for those of you that might just be listening, then you can hear how that's all spelled and get that right and connect with Michelle. So, all right. So Michelle, if you were going to leave a drop of thought, just something that word of inspiration, what would that be?
What's coming up for me is celebrate every single moment, whether it's good or bad. Get in the habit of celebrating.
Good. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Because you know what? When we find out what we don't want, then that allows us to figure out what we do want. So when we're in that contrast of the moment, right, it's really a beautiful thing. I mean, we should appreciate the good and the bad, because when we have the bad, then we can appreciate the good. And we also get to focus on more of like, well, I don't want that to happen again. So I want this. So you start focusing on what you do want. And I think that's like beautiful, like celebrate it all. And so anyway, I want to thank you for being on the show. I'm going to close every show with my dot, but you know, I love your heart. Yeah, I feel like I've known you, like we've just connected, and I feel like it's been 3 lifetimes, even in a good way, not in a, oh my God, like I've known you forever, like in a really positive way, because I love your heart. I love your energy, and I know how passionate you are about what you do. And you know, like me, you want to get out in the world and make a difference. So my dot and how we close this show. Thank you for Michelle for being here.
Thank you for having me.
In a world where we can be anything, be kind.
Oh, I love that. I'm taking that on.
Taking that on, right? Beautiful. On. All right.
Perfect.
I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.